Hey guys, Chance Williams here. So I got some good news and some bad news and some good news and some bad news. The bad news is that 2010 Dodge Ram 1500 four-wheel drive whooped my ass. At least it thought it did. I did prevail. I did win. But I'm gonna tell you something, guys. That was one of the hardest damn things that ever. Unbelievable, and it was a combination of part suppliers and a combination of uh, processors not working properly. But anyway, I want to start out today with hopefully maybe a little bit of inspirational story. So I guess I'll start out with some of my past experiences in automotive. So it was back about 27, 28 years ago, or excuse me, 26, 27 years ago when I first opened my repair facility. I was renting from a guy in a little small 3,000 square foot repair shop. A customer actually came in and needed some work repaired to his car. Now we had a little bit tight area that we was working in, and I was backing the daggum his Cadillac out, and I actually tapped and cracked the lens on the car. Now I've told some of you my story about having only $1,000 working capital, and that is the truth. I borrowed $21,000 to go in business. $25,000 to go in business. 21,000 went to Snap-on Tools for, I think, 3 lifts, cherry picker, Snap-on brick. Some of the startup stuff, right? So I ended up with that, and I said, okay, now we got, $4,000 left, and so a couple of $1,000 went to the office. Another $1,000 went out to advertising flyers and blah blah blah, gas money, knocking on doors, putting their flyers in mailboxes, anything to get recognized for being a new shop facility in the community. So anyway, as that thing went on, so we get to rolling here a little bit. I was in less than 6 months in, and I cracked this guy's tail light. Man, I ain't got no damn money to buy this guy's tail light. I mean, yeah, he was spending a few $100s, but I'm like, damn, what do I do? And I'm telling you guys this because a lot of you guys run into this situation. What do? You cover it up and you don't say a damn thing, and you just leave it alone and park the car and pray to God they don't walk back in. Well, I'm gonna tell you something. A lot of customers, they know their cars, and they know when something happens, and it may be the next day, but they're going to come back and say something to you. So anyway, long story short was I had the car for a couple of days, and I cracked the tail light, and I said, what do you do? What do you do? So I actually was at the salvage yard and seen a Cadillac sitting over there. I said, hey, that thing looks pretty good. I went over and asked the owner there. He knew me real well. And I said, hey, what you want for that tail light out there? He said, oh, you can have it. I said, no, I can't do that. I got to give you something for it. So I gave him $15 for it. Well, I took it and put it in the man's Cadillac because it was eating a hole in me, honestly, because I just, there's no way I could have let that Cadillac get out of there with a cracked lens, knowing daggum good and well. Although it was an older car, it was a really nice older car. And I knew he would have called back and complained and fussed about it. And that was something I was not willing to take on, was an argument. And knowing damn good and well that I did it. And the biggest part of it is telling a lie. And so I took care of the issue. But what I'm getting at is I'm having some of my soffits and stuff around the house. Now my house is about 30 years old, and I have really put a lot of money into it over the years to try to keep it up and keep a nice home. And so the soffits and stuff I wanted all the way around, the flat, pretty nice ones, and we're going to try to get the house painted and get it fixed up and get it, looking decent. It's about that time, pressure wash and clean, all the stuff that goes with it. So anyway, the contractor that I hired, I know him pretty well, and I know his characteristics. It's whatever time he gets there, and I knew that going in. Don't get me wrong. I mean, if general population come into a repair facility expected us to do that way, we probably wouldn't have a job. But I know this guy. I kind of have a soft spot for him, but I don't think I do anymore because I'm pissed a little bit. I'm not really I'm not really just stomping feet mad and raising hell. I'm just a little upset with him because I got some security lights on there, and one of them's a motion sensor. And so the motion sensor, I told him, I said, I got cameras up there, and I told him, I said, I'd point my cameras. So that little motion sensor just dangling right there. And I was like, So I climb up there, and the damn thing's broken. So I sent him a text about that little, story that I just told you guys. And he sends back me a text back, says, well, this might sound like a lie, but I don't know what you're talking about. Now, I'm going to tell you something. This guy's very, very intelligent. Unfortunately, he decides to live the life that he lives, and he lives from foot to mouth. And he charged me a pretty penny to do this stuff, and he does real good work. But at the same time, there's no way that you can hang that light up there and know that's not broken. So he texts me back, tells me that, so I'm not texting him back. I think that's the last time I'll ever use him. So that's the third time I've used him. The first two times were kind of butting heads a little bit, but this third time, it's kind of hard to get contractors in this area to start with, I guess is what I'm saying. But what I'm trying to tell you guys is always tell the truth. Don't try to shade nothing. Don't try to hide nothing. But anyway, the moral of the story is me fixing that guy's tail light. It's been about 26, 27 years, and he has now been with me that long. I've built a relationship with that man for the last 26, 27 years. I take care of his wife's cars, his kids' cars, their neighbors' cars. So, it all works out in the long run being honest about it. Okay. That's the thing that I wanted to start off with an inspirational story is just tell the truth. Yes, the truth hurts sometimes, but just tell the truth and just let it be over with. It's easier on the bosses up front or the service or advisors or whoever you're dealing with to be, honest. Hey, I screwed up. I broke it. How can we fix this? $5 a week out of your check, let the company pay for it. Just something to be honest about it. All right. So the next story is 2010 Dodge Ram 1500. Four-wheel drive. I'm going to tell you something, guys, The whole job was pretty easy, from wheel bearings to spark plugs to water pump to hoses, and I thought I'd leave the cluster for last, thinking it was going to be simple. Well, the very first thing that I do on drivability or any type of electrical stuff, if I can, if it's got a controller, I'm going to scan the control system, and I did every single controller on there. Everything was online working and in communications and incognito with everything. And so it was working. So I was happy with it. And I was like, okay, there's no trouble code. So let's do a sweep test with our cluster. Key off, push the little tripometer button down, turn the key on, all gauges should sweep. Now, what I mean by all gauges should sweep and all the bells and whistles and all that other stuff should come on is exactly what I have read on every site that I went to and that I have been on. And I'll just start off with the oil gauge on this one right here. It basically says oil pressure gauge is not working. Now, I will tell y'all this one had the display in the middle, the little screen, and it actually read the oil pressure. So it said 58 PSI code. And of course, as the car got hot, it actually even moved down. It didn't say fixated on 58. It did actually function. So I'm in the situation of, okay, well, this is working. Let's unplug the oil pressure switch, which I did. It's not leaking. And when I unplugged it, of course, it quit working inside. And I said, okay. Now, I did do the sweep test on this thing, and the oil pressure gauge did not move. The charge gauge did not move. All the other gauges worked, including the fuel gauge. It even showed empty on the fuel gauge, and it registered low fuel warning message up on the display. So I'm like thinking, all right, cool. Well, I think doing the gauge sweep right here, as you can see, you got 27, 2012, 11, 10, 12, all confirmed fixes on replacing the oil sending unit. Unfortunately, that was not even the realm of close to being my issue. And these guys right here performed a 5-minute battery disconnect. They actually disconnected the instrument cluster and got it all back to working as far as the fuel gauge. I meant the oil pressure gauge, excuse me. All right, this guy says replace the sender. And it does have a TSB for this problem. I'm using heavy heavier, using too heavy of an engine oil in cold temperatures. Ended up unhooking the battery, and of course, for so many minutes, and after they did that, of course, it came back to work because of engine oil being too thick in colder weather, staying too high. I'm pretty sure that's what that is. Now, there's one on a 2009 down here that said replace cluster. All right, so I did my due diligence. I took that cluster and I sent it off for repair to Alpharetta, Georgia, to a company up there that I've dealt with before and has always done fair work at a reasonable price. And what's reasonable nowadays is I couldn't tell you. I just said reasonable because my customer said she could afford that. So I sent the cluster off. The guy calls me back a couple of days after he gets this. His chance is $450, and we can have it done in a week or and I'll have all the parts in a week. Is his exact words. So I said, okay, let's do that. Well, he called me back the next day and said, Chance, I can't find nothing wrong with this cluster. I said, wait a minute, you just told me that you said that it was in parts you had to order, it was $450 and blah, blah, blah. Oh, well, yeah, he starts stumbling, and I'm like, what the hell is this guy talking about? Then all of a sudden, he said, let me call you back. He calls me back. 2 days later, I sent this cluster over to another facility and let them check it, and they can't find anything wrong with it either. And I said, can you get the oil pressure gauge and the charge gauge to sweep? No, we can't get those to sweep. I said, do you want me to send you this information? I can print it and send it to you if you like. That gauge, those gauges have to sweep. Oh, we run into that all the time. They don't necessarily ever sweep. It has something to do with the other controllers. So I said, okay. I said, so I'm sitting down here with no trouble codes, looking at all the information I have, and it tells me if the gauges do not sweep, send cluster out for repair or replace cluster. He said, well, let me call you back. He calls me back in a couple of days, or did not call me back in a couple of days. So I call back up there. Now we're working on a week and a half now, and I called him back, and I got to talk to his son. His son says, "Hey, man," he said, "Look, we don't know what to tell you." And he said, "Well, look, take this part number, get it over, get the cluster from LKQ. If it functions, send it to us, and we'll program the mileage for you." And I said, "Okay, cool." Well, I ordered a cluster from LKQ, installed the cluster. The gauges worked, except for the fuel gauge. Now, remember, I told you the fuel gauge would sweep. So that tells me there is communication when I go into the test mode, and it does tell it to work. All right, so now I know if replacing this cluster is going to fix those two gauges right there. So I said, before I send this cluster off, I need to find out why my fuel gauge is not working. I said, okay. So the fuel gauge test on this particular one right here did not show an open circuit, closed circuit, shorted voltage, shorted ground. Zero codes for the fuel gauge, nothing, nada. You're in the dark on this one, and now you're like, I don't understand. I'm having a hard time understanding why this is fuel gauge is not functioning. Every controller on there is communicating. There is nothing there that is telling you that there is a problem. So I said, well, let me just punch in fuel gauge. So I punched in fuel gauge over here, and of course, I came up with this test, unplugged the fuel tank sending unit or fuel pump, check the voltage on it. The voltage should be 5 to 7 volts on the blue and white wire. 3.2 volts is what I had. Okay, I traced the circuit back up to a big bulkhead connector C302 up under the fender well, unplugged it, 3.2 volts. Now from that bulkhead connector all the way to the TIPA module, total integrated power module, there is not any connectors in between there. I back probe it right there at the, I think it was a C7 G8 pin connector, blue and white wire, 3.2 volts. Everything would lead you to believe the CPU is not capable of putting out a 5 volts reference. Now, let me back up a little bit. So on this particular vehicle right here, when I ordered that totally integrated power module, it is only 2010 only. Now, I struggled to get a used TIPA module, and I got it out of Michigan, and they sent it to me. So I tried to contact them and tell them, said, all the information I have that I'm showing, the CPU is not putting out 5 volts reference like it's supposed to. For it to correspond with the resistor inside there for the sending unit in order to make the reference voltage and the circuit voltage or circuit signal in to work and function as a unit to make the fuel gauge work. And they well, let me call you back. That from that day from then on, all they did was ignore my phone calls. So I'm like, okay, I got a cluster in here that's working. My gauge is working. I got another TIPA module, put it in. The gauges are still working except for the fuel gauge, and now I'm kind of in the dark here. Okay, it looks like I need another TIPA module. So I got to looking for the TIPA module online. Couldn't find it anywhere, and I actually that was reasonable. They're from $300 to $1,300. There's some highway robbers out there, guys. I'm telling you, some highway robbers out there, just like used car prices right now. But anyway, I'm willing to pay $1,200 for a TIPA module at this point. But I found a Dorman part number for that particular car, so I called Dorman Tech Support and said, "Hey, can you make sure this is the correct TIPA module part number?" I ordered it through AutoZone. I got it before I ordered it. They had to have the VIN number and the mileage. I don't know why they had to have the mileage, but I got them both, and they sent it in. It took about 3 days. Got it back, installed it. You would think that my fuel gauge would work. No, fuel gauge didn't work. Now, guess what happened? The fuel gauge didn't work, and both my charge gauges, or excuse me, while I was waiting on, there was so much with this vehicle, but let me back up. While I was ordering the second TIPA module, I boxed both of my clusters up, sent them slam off to Marietta to have them repaired or programmed. The mileage, that is. Customer was reluctant. She wanted the correct mileage on there. And of course, really by law, you need to put the correct mileage in there if you're trying to sell a car. It's not good if you try to sell it with a different mileage in there. So I said, okay, I'm waiting. Finally, it took him a week to get the cluster back to me. So now I'm working on like 3 weeks on this one particular part. I'm waiting. It still hadn't got it back yet. So it comes in finally on a Friday, and luckily I was up there trying to catch up on some things. Got the cluster, had the new TIPA module. I'm ready to rock and roll with this thing. Let's get everything plugged up, get it out of here. Plugged it up, then my charge gauge did not work. My oil pressure gauge did not work. My fuel gauge did not work. And I still had 3.2 volts with all the connectors unplugged. At this point, I think I made the last video. I was ready to give up on this particular vehicle. I was messed up. I just couldn't understand it. So I had a long talk with the customer. Customer told me, well, my brother did use it, and about the time that the gauges quit working, my brother took the car and had jumped somebody off. And a couple of days after that, my battery died, and we had to get a new battery. And I failed to see the relevance in that, but I got to thinking, I have seen some Chevrolet trucks, and I know you guys have. You go to remove the battery in them, and the BCM loses all its functions, and you have to go in and program the BCM to function again because the programming somehow or another gets kicked out the back door. And then you're stuck with a Chevrolet you're trying to replace the battery in. So I'm thinking, I guess Chrysler's going down that avenue too. So maybe this is an issue. But I had checked the trouble codes for the TIPA module that I had in there, and no, I didn't. I got mad. I got upset, and I took the TIPA module from Dorman, sent it back because it was a $500 part. It didn't fix my problem. I said, okay, need to start over. So I picked up another cluster. The gauges worked. I took the original, what I thought was the original TIPA module, and plugged it in. And it wasn't the original TIPA module. The original TIPA module, I'm not sure what happened to it. I think I lost it. But anyway, I plugged it up, and then I got 2 trouble codes. The 2 trouble codes that I actually got were an 1147 and 1148. Okay, and I'm sitting here going, okay, well, additional CAN interior is detected. So this means to me that it's a possibility that their TIPA module that those guys sold me is not correct. So anyway, the way I had done that was car-parts.com is where I actually got the TIPA module is this site right here. Now, if you go in, I don't know if it don't save my searches, but I'm gonna go in by the year, and I'm gonna show you guys that it's only 2010 according to the salvage yards. So we're going with Dodge. There's a ton of different Dodges, isn't there? Dodge 1500 Ram. Wow. 350, 450, 1500, 94 and up. All right, and so we're going to area. I'm going to put you in a zip code of 30241. And oh, I forgot. I gotta search tell it what I'm looking for. I gotta select a part. So we'll go with cluster. I don't know if it was cluster or IP cluster. It must have been instrument cluster. Instrument cluster. Bezel. You can see also be Speedo. But anyway, it is only 2010 and 2010. Car Parts is usually really good about telling you what ranges will actually work. And it'll throw the correct thing up here. So anyway, I searched it and I came up with these list of folks. I don't know which one exactly. It's been a couple of weeks ago. I don't know exactly which one I got to send it to me. But they had it listed over here as a 2010 Dodge. So I call the guy. The guy sends me the information supposedly off of it. Didn't send me the VIN number or anything, just send me pictures of what he had. And I told my wife was speaking with him, and I told him, I said, or Barbara was speaking with him. I said, I tell you what, if that's out of a 2010 1500 four-wheel drive, send it to me, 5.7. So he shipped it to me. I had to wait for that. So I waited for that. Then I finally got the parts for it, installed it. So that's when I first plugged it up, with one of the clusters in there, I still didn't get any trouble codes. I got no trouble codes until I returned the original that Dorman product, and then I put the used TIPA module in there, and I put the third cluster in there. When I put the third cluster in there, believe it or not, every gauge on it worked beautifully. I'm sitting there just shock and awe. I couldn't understand how everything was working. I was trying to put it all together in my head. And so I'm sitting there, I know 30 seconds or longer, and I get out, walking around in front of the truck, turn around, walk back. Then the damn fuel gauge is not working, but the other two gauges are working. But then I said, okay, well, let's check trouble codes. So that's when I got these two particular codes up, was a U47, U48. Now, these is, you can see all the interior. Now, what I did see on it was, okay, so when you take your scan tool, you guys, and you go under pre-scan, and you scan it like with my Autel, because my Autel and my Snap-on, they both led me down a foxhole, so to speak. So when you scan with the Autel, usually it'll pull up every one of the controllers, but it just rode through all the controllers like it wasn't recognizing or seeing anything. And I do remember seeing a radio code, and I also saw this satellite code right there. And then there was it wasn't a code. It wasn't saying, it really wasn't a code. It was saying that it was not connected. So there was a couple of these in here. I don't remember every one of them, but they were connected. And one of the other ones was a airbag control module. So it wasn't connected either. So I buttoned everything up. I took it over to my friend at Chrysler, and I said, look, dude, I got to tell you something. I said, this truck right here, I've never seen anything like this. I have always been able to replace a TIPA module or cluster in every Dodge product that I've ever messed with that had a problem and not run into a situation like this. Please tell me what you find. So he told me around $300 to diagnose it. And I said, I don't care. I just want to know. I want to know if it's something I did or what it is that, because we all need help. Okay. When you need help, you have to pay for it. And I don't give a damn who you are. If you think you're God in this industry, then you're not a damn technician. You're just somebody who thinks you know it all. And I don't know it all. I'll be the first to tell you I know a lot about a lot of things, but I don't know it all. But the PCM, TCM, the TIPM, the ABS module, and I'll tell you another thing about the ABS module. When I unplugged that damn ABS module, you guys, and that's the reason I took it over to Chrysler real quick, because I knew at that point that even though it was leading me to a couple other control modules, not even related to the instrument cluster, without sitting down and going through hours of looking at the LIN bus communication with the Noids and all that, and also looking at high-speed CAN lines, you still can't see what's really in there on the data link connector, other than all the modules are talking to one another. So I was like, I unplugged that ABS control module. As soon as I did, there was nothing that happened. You would expect every bell and whistle on the instrument cluster to go off. It didn't. The check engine light went off and it stored a bunch of trouble codes, but the ABS light, traction light, none of that stuff actually came on. So I took that thing over to Chrysler, and he calls me back a couple hours later and says, hey, your truck's ready. And I said, get out of here. Because I told him, the last thing I told him, I said, I think I did everything right, but I think the cluster, I think, here's what I think. I said, with these trouble codes now, I can't tie them together, but I think if you configure everything for me, because the wind module also did not have the correct bin number in there, how that got knocked out, I'm not sure. It didn't set a code for it. I just went in under it playing with it to look and see what the bin was. And it said VIN not supported, or not supported, but VIN not available or something. So it wouldn't allow, the PCM wouldn't allow me to write the VIN into it. So Chrysler had to do it for me, because I'm not set. I believe it or not, I got almost every piece of equipment out there, except I'm not set up with Chrysler's, diagnostic stuff, which I would if I was a little bit younger, but I'm not younger, and I'm not going to do it. No. So anyway, I get talking to the tech there, and he's a pretty good guy. I know him pretty well. Here's what he told me. He said, first thing that came out of his mind, he said, I didn't tell him about the battery being disconnected. He said, did that thing ever did anybody jump that car off, or did anybody ever replace the battery? I said, yeah, the battery's been replaced. He said, anybody jump anybody off? I said, yeah, somebody jumped somebody off. He said, because I've only seen this one other time on another car, on a police car, that out by, I think his airbag control module, when he was looking under that stuff, it had a question mark by the VIN. Excuse me. And the only thing he could have contributed to that by was a voltage spike or whatever. So long story short, I don't know if the problem started with her knocking the information out, juggling the shit around where it wasn't, it liked what it seemed, but it wasn't enough to throw any trouble codes. And so when I get that thing back over to the shop, I was terrified to remove the TIPA module. So I unplugged the fuel pump, I unplugged the C2 connector, and I checked the voltages at the TIPA module, and it was 3.2 volts. I was scared to death to remove it, but I also found out the TIPA module was not for a 2010 Dodge Ram. It was for a minivan. So he had to configure it. So apparently there might have been something wrong with the original TIPA module, but I was too scared to remove it. But I did remove the cluster and plug the original cluster in, and the original cluster did not, none of the gauges work. I was back at square zero. So I plugged the used cluster back in, and everything worked fine. I started to change over the TIPA module, but at that point I was terrified. The TIPA module, I could not verify myself 100% that the TIPA module or what it was. I felt comfortable selling her a cluster. Number one, the 2 gauges didn't sweep. Chrysler says it has to sweep. And I also did some more reading. It also says during a sweep test, if all the communication lines of data is not there for the airbag, PCM, airbag control module, and all this other stuff, it's possible to interfere with a gauge sweep. So y'all also remember that. So it's a possibility. It could have just needed programming. So I did not charge her for the Tippin module. I did charge her for the cluster because I kind of feel the cluster was the problem the whole time. And I think the 3.2 volts, after calling and consulting back with Dorman, saying it has to be 5 volts, consulting with Identifix after speaking with those guys, supposed to be 5 volts and it's 3.2 volts. And my fuel gauge is accurate. My fuel gauge works functioning properly after calling back, talking to ALLDATA, telling guys the same thing. They're thinking I'm stupid, I'm crazy. No, my voltmeter's not broken. It is 3.2 volts. And I think it is only for that year or only for that production. I cannot explain it. I don't never want to see another damn Dodge Chrysler, or excuse me, another Dodge pickup with an instrument cluster issue with gauge issues again. I don't care how many times I've learned about this shit. I don't care to do it again. I don't want to get back into a roller coaster ride again. So I had a Ford come in. Instrument cluster is completely out and in, but it's a little easier. I got all the stuff to fix it. I don't have to send it to no dealership. But anyway, that's some information I have got to tell y'all, and I told y'all about. Now, excuse me. All right, so here's the next thing. I am fixing to show y'all a video on Pete Myers. He is a training instructor, one of their lead guys at Motors Magazine. He is the guy that I want to live stream, do a class with you guys. I'm not going to say that I'm getting pissed off. I'm just going to say that I'm very disappointed in you guys for not sending me your email and $100 to get involved in this. I need at least 20 people. If you cannot afford for your education, you should not even be in this field unless you're just changing lug nuts on wheels or changing tires. This shit's evolving 24/7. Electrical is where it is going, and he is very well versed in teaching automotive electronics. You will not get bored with this guy. So I thought it would be a good thing for me to just show you this brief presentation of one of his YouTube videos and let you guys make your own decision. Write this down. chanceshoptalk@gmail.com. Do not spell my name with an E. My phone number is 706-415-1638. Please register your spot ASAP. August is going to be here before you know it. I have to secure payment with him and his team in order to get this rolling. If you miss it, you will have a special code for up to 30 days to watch it. You're going to learn something. I promise you will. I haven't shit you wrong yet, and I will never shit you wrong. And if I tell you a shit wrong lie, then I'm sorry. If I know about it, I'm gonna make it right. But in the meantime, please watch this presentation of this gentleman right here. Oh, by the way, this is Jeff Lerner right here. If you guys are ever interested in affiliate marketing, this is the man right here. He's actually on Pete Myers. He's running a video ad here. You can listen to his spiel for a minute, but I like Jeff. I've had personal contact, not personal contact with him, but through Zoom. He's really an outstanding guy. He's got a really great team of people teaching affiliate marketing, digital, a digital agency, and I forgot what the other one is. But they got so much information, you could probably go 5 to 6 days a week, 6 hours a day, 8 hours a day, taking in information, and you would never get called up. But anyway, please watch this video. It's just a short video. I'm probably going to stop it, and we're going to talk a little bit more.
A house or a laptop? Which one do you think is worth more? Well, definitely not the house, because it not only costs millions to buy, but you also have to pay thousands to maintain it every month. What if I told you that I've made over $80 million all from something called digital real estate?
Oh, by the way, that is true. He has
digital
done that.
real estate costs.
But anyway, I'm going to skip that.
An electrical problem. Now, there are several reasons I think for this. One is not really understanding what voltage is and the role it plays in the electrical circuit, especially when it comes to understanding the concept of voltage drop. and using that as a testing method to isolate the problem. Well, I recently learned a new way to look at voltage, and I'd like to share that with you today. I think it's a pretty safe bet that everyone watching understands what intake manifold vacuum is. This low pressure area in the intake is caused by the pistons as they descend on their respective intake strokes. On the other side of the throttle plate is atmospheric pressure, higher than the pressure area in the intake manifold. When the throttle plate is open, that high pressure area will stream in to fill the low pressure area and will continue to do so until the two equalize. Now, if we compare atmospheric pressure to the amount of intake manifold vacuum achieved, well, that pressure difference is a number you should all be familiar with as well. Manifold absolute pressure. Getting current to flow is not all that much different. The battery has a high number of electrons gathered around the positive post and a lower number at the negative post. Now, the question is, which way do the electrons flow? Well, if we stick with our existing analogy, it would seem to make sense that they would flow from the abundance on the positive side to the shortage on the negative side, kind of that high pressure to low pressure concept that we've been talking about. And that's called conventional current theory. The only problem is it's not accurate. See, the electrons are negatively charged and the flow is actually reversed from negative to positive. Is that important to know in order for me to fix the car? Do I really care whether the electrons are going this way or that? No. All I know is that if I put my positive meter lead on the positive side of the battery and my negative meter lead on the negative side of the battery, I'm measuring the voltage potential between the two leads, or what's in the battery. And I can take that one step further. Anywhere I place my meter leads in the circuit, whether it's across a load or a section of wiring, it's going to tell me any electromotive potential or pressure or difference, any voltage between those two leads. If I happen to read a negative number, well, my orientation is backward. To get an accurate reading, all I have to do is swap leads. When the circuit is on, electrical pressure, that is voltage, causes the electrons to move through the circuit. That's current, and that is measured in terms of amperage or amps. The energy carried by the electron flow is used to perform the work in the circuit. The work may be illuminating a light bulb, or turning a motor, or creating the magnetic field that opens the fuel injector or fires the spark plug. And the device or component in the circuit that is responsible for doing the work is called the load. Okay, let's see if I can explain this in a way that makes sense. Electrons don't move willingly. In fact, the more electrons there are in the outer ring of the atom of the material that we're trying to cause them to move in, the harder it is, which is why some materials make good conductors, like copper, for example, with only, I think, one electron in the outer ring, as compared to other insulative materials that have, say, more than 3 or 4 in the outer ring. More theory than you really need to fix the car. But what you do need to understand to fix the car is that opposition to flow is called resistance. And statically, we can measure it in units called ohms.
All right, guys.
I'm not too interested in
This is just a little sneak preview of dealing with Mr. Pete and his instructions on teaching. And hang on a minute. Let me fix this screen here. Don't hurt, extend it, duplicate. Keep them. Alrighty. All right, so I'm back. So just remember, anytime you get a Dodge pickup truck, it doesn't matter. It probably can happen to you guys on anything. So I got a combination. Oh, and let me reverse a little bit. So the Dorman tip of module, if it had been configured properly, because I don't remember if I had got the U codes in that one or not. I just know that it didn't function. the way it's supposed to. I still don't know why it has 3.2 volts when it should have 5 volts, and that's what it's supposed to have. I don't know if it's a 2010 model only or 2010 model not. I don't, or anything above it beyond that. I don't know. I can't explain that. I wish I could. Then it would be nice if I could explain that. But anyway, all right. Peace out, and remember, Chance, CHANC. Shop Talk, SHOPTALK @gmail.com. Please send your contact information in so I can get with you for the registration on our training class coming up in August. And I've got to get it secured in order to get you guys an exact date. I need at least a minimum of 20 folks, and you can watch it at your leisure for 30 days if you miss it. Pete is a wonderful instructor. He has been doing it for many years, and he's a pretty smart guy. And he's a lot better at sometimes just sitting there telling you the plain truth than most people can. See, I can go out with a voltmeter and show you, hey, look, but he really kind of knocks it home and explains it more in detail. And he also pulls in the relative theory as Ohm's law. So, what is it? I can't remember. I over R equals E, and so on and so forth. That was the part I hated in class when I was in tech school. But anyway, until then, I hope y'all enjoyed that. And that is the guy I want to do a live streaming with. I have been in contact with him. He is very eager to do so. And it's taken a lot for me to get this going. So if you guys are really interested in it, you need to get with me, please, as soon as possible. I'm going to reach out to you individually, the ones that are interested through Messenger here today or tomorrow. Probably tomorrow because it's getting pretty late here. And I've had a hard week. So until then, peace out. Remember, I showed you a video of Jeff. He's telling you the truth about the money he's paid off. He just learned he nailed it home with branding and an offer, and that's all it took. So for him to get started and make that kind of money. And so that's kind of what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to do branding and offer, and I'm offering you guys much as I can offer you here, and give you the best I can. So until then, go reach out to me. Take care. End broadcast.